And welcome to the regular meeting of the Lakeport City Council for Tuesday, March 21st, 2017. Roll call.
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Councilmember Parlett.
Here.
Councilmember Spur.
Present.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Mayor Medina.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Lieutenant, you want to lead us?
Yes, of course. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, acceptance of the agenda. Do we have any urgency items? No? And I think, do we have a change? Something we're going to pull?
Yes, we wanted to pull the item, notice of completion on downtown Main Street improvement project. It's not quite done, so
Okay.
we'll bring that back when it is done.
Yes. Oh, that under C3?
Yeah, it was anticipated to be completed today, but the weather prevented some final items.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move to, is there any,
Anyone from the public? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move to accept the agenda with the deletion of Public Works Director, notice of completion C3.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On the consent agenda, tonight we have waive the reading except by title of any ordinance, approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting for March 7th, 2017, approve application number 2017-011 with staff recommendations for the Lake County's finest farmers market to be held on Tuesday mornings in Library Park from May through September. Adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Lakeport extending the prohibition on price gouging for an additional 30 days in the City of Lakeport. Adopt the proposed resolution adopting a records retention schedule and authorizing destruction of certain city records and rescinding resolution number 2550-2015. Authorize the out-of-state travel as requested by the Chief of Police to resolve a pending felony criminal investigation. And adopt the proposed resolution to transfer $33,000 from the Low to Moderate Housing Fund to the city's Emergency Housing Assistance Fund and to increase the budgeted expenditures in the Emergency Housing Assistance Fund by $34,000 to provide emergency housing assistance to displaced Lakeport residents of the 2017 flood event. Any questions? Anything you want to pull? Anyone from the public? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Public presentations. Do we have any citizen input tonight?
No.
Anyone from the public? Nope. Council business. Measure Z Independent Citizens Advisory Committee. Is that you, Kelly?
That's me. So as the council knows, on November 8th, the Measure Z was passed. A special 1% local sales and use tax, and the ordinance calls for an independent citizens advisory committee to meet. We did advertise for this committee, and we've received 12 applications. With 12 applications, it can make it a little difficult for the council in this setting to make a selection. Typically, we do bring our applicants in, but there's usually maybe one more than we need, or a couple. So it was recommended that we form an ad hoc committee made up of 2 council members and whatever city staff you'd like to select. And that ad hoc committee could make a recommendation to the council on which members seem most appropriate for the Measure Z committee.
Okay,
That's
great.
it.
Any questions on that? I think it's great we had so many applications. It's
Yeah.
a really important committee, so that'll be a good way to handle it. Well, I would volunteer to be on that committee.
Do we have any other volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Volunteer.
Oh, well, let Tim do it.
Absolutely, George.
Rock, paper, scissors. Do you want to do it? It's fine.
I'll do it. If you would like to do it, you can do it as well.
Or I'll let you do it.
Okay, thank you. You, sir.
Any comments from the public? Okay, bring it back for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lakeport establishing an ad hoc advisory committee for the selection of the Measure Z Independent Citizens Advisory Committee to be comprised of City Council members Stacy Mattina and Tim Barnes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have an extended stay resolution.
That's me.
Is that you again?
Yes,
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin is out of town right now, the economic development.
Oh, I suppose I should have mentioned that.
Conference,
Margaret
yeah.
Silvera, our city
That's
manager,
fine.
and Kevin Ingram are, what is it, economic development?
Conference,
Conference?
yes. Uh-huh. So Kevin asked me to bring this item for him. You may recall that during the Valley fires, the council extended the amount of time a person can stay at a local hotel. And that's what we're basically asking for again for the Willow Point or flood, anybody like adversely affected by the flood. What we're asking is that the maximum 30-day stay allowance, that there be a maximum 30-day stay. And also that if somebody needs a waiver of deposit fees for sewer and water connections associated with the move due to the event, that would be granted. So there's some background on in the staff report, but that is the gist of what staff is asking, that you adopt the proposed resolution that would provide that relief.
And this worked really well last time. I don't think it was taken advantage of or abused in any way.
Do you know if the people show some sort of an ID saying that I am from this area when they go to like a hotel or something like that? So that people know that they can get the extended stay?
I'm not sure the nuts and bolts. I imagine they would need to do that. We don't have, total control of what the hotels do, and we're probably not monitoring it that closely. If they did come into City Hall and want a waiver of the utility deposit, they would definitely have to show that.
Okay.
So we will do our best to work with the local hotels to make sure they understand that.
Well, it seems to me that the whole idea of the 30-day stay is not to turn, your local resort community into a apartment complex. And this is just a situation here where we're allowing people to do what they need to do to get through until they can get back into some kind of a livable condition brought on by this weather. So this is just something to kind of get around the normal requirements so that people don't start moving into the various hotels and, permanently residing there. So I think this is just like a commonsensical solution to something that needs to be done under the circumstances.
And also we did, we're recommending that 90 days be the maximum, and that will also kind of get people moved out before the holiday season starts, the summer season and the high season starts, so that should work out.
Yeah.
And they're covered because they won't be gouged in the prices.
That's right.
Any other questions?
If we're allowing them to stay for 90 days, should we anticipate that we'll have to extend the price gouging ordinance additionally? Because I don't think this one tonight is, what
Just
is
for
it?
30 days.
For
You can
another
only,
30.
you can only extend it for 30 days.
Okay.
So that would be something that we would have to bring back to you guys in 30 days if that was something you wanted to consider.
That would be very unpopular, I think, if they did. Not that it couldn't happen.
Any other questions up here? Anyone from the public?
Madam Mayor, I'd move to adopt a proposed resolution providing relief to displaced residents of the 2017 flood event from certain requirements of the Lakeport Municipal Code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Geiselman Street waterline replacement. Doug?
Yes, Madam Mayor, council members, bring before you a request for authorization to advertise for competitive bids for the Geiselman Street waterline replacement project. This is replacing the water main from Lake Shore to Lang Street that runs the length of Geiselman. And as this is just part of a bigger project, which is the overlay. We've had issues with that water line ever since I've been here. If you look at all the patches on it, you can tell that we're constantly taking that water line up and repairing it because of its age. We didn't want to be one of those agencies that goes and paves a brand new street and then has to go dig it up 14 times to fix an old junky water line. So what we're requesting is to put out to bid the replacement of that water line so that when we pave that, Geiselman, we won't be digging it up to make water line repairs. Plus, it's upsizing the services in that area for fire flows. We have new state requirements now for fire flows. We're upsizing all of the services to the curb to a 1 inch, which will accommodate a home fire system, sprinkler system, which will meet all the current codes coming out now for sprinkler systems that have to be in residences. So we're accomplishing a number of things here. We're not asking you to authorize construction yet. This is just authorization to go out to bid. When the bids come back in, then we'll come back before council with the bid results and request award.
First step towards the new Geiselman.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is I'm glad that you're thinking about doing it in the summertime when school's out and so there's less traffic and less commotion and stuff. So that's good thinking in that direction. So.
And no rain.
And no rain.
So Doug, what's the situation with the proximity of the sewer lines, water lines? Are those, is it a completely separate issue, or is any of that going to be like entanglements that need to be dealt with?
No, that we're pretty lucky on Geiselman is that we do have the required separation. That's the first thing that we look at now. Back in the old days, there was no required separation.
Put in the same ditch?
Yeah, and now it's 10 feet. I mean, that's huge. And so we're very fortunate that on Geiselman, the sewer runs on the opposite side of the street where the water main is. So we'll be good to go there.
Good question. Anyone else? Anyone from the public? No? Okay. Bring it back to council.
So, Madam Mayor, I move to authorize staff to advertise for competitive bids for the Geiselman Street water line replacement project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Downtown tree installation project contract award. Who's taking this, Doug?
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
council members. Unfortunately, Kevin's not here, so I will give the presentation on this. What we're asking is that the council award the contract for the downtown tree installation project. The low bidder was Neary Landscaping Incorporated for the amount of $128,900. All the bid documents have been checked, and all their documents are in order, and we are requesting that the council approve the award.
I would just add to that the trees have been at huge component of this project, and in the planning stages, it was what the citizens asked for over and over, were the huge trees, big enough so they didn't block the signs of the businesses, and big enough so they'd provide a lot of shade for walking around and hanging out downtown. So when we initially delayed them, I was worried, but I'm thrilled to see that, we're able to move forward and get it done.
Yeah, if I could continue just a little bit. It was always the intent of the downtown project to do a number of things. One naturally was to improve the condition of the roadway and the pedestrian access on the sidewalks, but also at the same time, there was a lot of thought and consideration given to how do we help our local businesses? How do we make downtown a more inviting place that will attract people to actually want to come and walk down our street and look in our windows and go in our shops and make purchases? And a part of that really in reality is what your street looks like. And without the trees, what we're going to have is a Sahara Desert. I mean, we all know how hot it gets here in the summertime. It'll be so hot on that sidewalk that it'll be pretty much unbearable. You're not going to have people stopping and looking in your windows. They're probably heading back to their car to get in their air conditioner and get out of town as fast as possible. So this was all part of what we were thinking when we were working on the downtown project. And the trees are a very, very critical part of that, because they're going to be what gives the canopy and the shade and gives that warmer feeling. Trees and plants give off a natural warm feeling versus asphalt and concrete. Mm-hmm. And so the trees are really, to give that I'm comfortable here feeling. And plus, the biggest thing is the shade. We want people, that's part of why, so you'll notice some of the businesses are doing stuff along the sidewalk. Well, the whole idea behind that is they're going to have shade there, so people are going to want to sit and have a burger outside the pub or whatever business it is, or stop and get something to drink from Jack's, sit down on a table alongside the sidewalk in the shade and visit. And that's what we want. We want to bring that. This is a place to come. It's a place to socialize. It's a place to shop, and it's a place that you want to be. And that's really what the trees are all about.
Then we need a fire pit.
That's the next phase.
So the thing that we heard about a lot during the drought was the fact that there was various and sundry projects that were done, and there was people coming in and complaining because we had plants with the hanging baskets, and then they were watering them too much, and they were wasting water, and it was going onto the onto the sidewalk, and how dare we do that, and could we control that, and what do we need to do? It was a lot of stuff going on, and then there was a huge amount of people that were involved in the selection of the trees, so they wouldn't be too big, so they'd have a nice canopy, so they wouldn't have all the leaves and all this kind of stuff. So it's a long, drawn-out process. But I thought that when we approved the downtown project, there was a component that we pulled out that we decided that we would do ourselves. What was that? I thought it was the trees, but did we change our mind?
Well, we looked at the trees as being a possible component that we could do in-house.
Okay. So I wasn't losing my mind.
No, you weren't losing your mind. That was a consideration that we were looking at. How that topic and that talk came up was that we knew that somehow we were going to have to try to get the trees in there. Then we got really looking at the complexity and the scope of the project, and looking at my staff, and with the flooding and everything else that we have, even without the flooding, because this was prior to the flooding, but you still have the flooding in there now. But even prior to that, if you look what I have to do with 6 guys.
Yeah, say no more, I understand. I just thought that I read way back when that we were, because it seemed like an inordinately large amount when they did it, and you pulled it out, I don't know, it was a couple $100,000, and they said, no, we'll do it. And then when this other bid came in at, some gastronomical amount of almost 300 grand, I mean, I'm like, to plant trees, really? So I guess the 128,000 or $2,300 per tree is not so bad when you look at what it is. And I knew that you were going to be overwhelmed with all the other things. I just wanted to make sure that I remembered that we pulled that out of the bid early on so that we could do that. So that makes sense now. Okay. And then the way I understand it, we're looking to get some possible benefactors to maybe help subsidize the shortfall that we have to make up with the budget.
Correct. The Main Street Association has been approached, and they are talking, and I have not been involved directly in those talks, but my understanding is they're very receptive to help to do a fundraiser similar to the plaques that went on the street lights to help cover the cost of the trees. And I know that Margaret has been working very closely with them trying to get that off the ground. And I know that Councilmember Barnes had some questions also, and if at this time, if you would like me to address those concerning the costs.
Yeah, I had a couple phone calls from community members who had actually went over this, so that was really awesome. But they were wondering, how does it cost $2,300 for a tree to plant?
Well, yeah, well, it's more than that, because if you take the 34 and put it into that, you're talking about $3,700 a tree.
Right.
Well, I can address that if you would like.
That would be great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the state of California, well, for some people it's fortunate, for other people with no money it's unfortunate. There is state law that requires public works projects of a certain magnitude have to be bid out. In other words, we cannot do that in-house. That also alluded to one of the problems, Kenny, that we were looking at with our forces doing all of this work. So after you reach it, and I believe that threshold is 45,000, if I remember correctly. So if you have a project involving public works over $45,000, you have to put it out to bid. Now, as a part of that, for someone to bid on it in the state of California, they have to pay what's called prevailing wage. And the prevailing wage is not set by the city, it's set by, well, there's a federal and a state both. State typically is higher than federal. Amount of money that the contractor is required by law to pay their employees. So someone that would be working for us making $14 an hour as a laborer is probably making 20, I'm guessing now the rate's probably about $28 an hour. Plus they have benefits on top of that. So a laborer is costing the contractor anywhere from $40 to $50 an hour. Now the way prevailing wage works and how the law works is that amount of money starts from portal to portal. So if the contractor's office is in Santa Rosa and that's where they have to report for work, then when they climb in their truck in Santa Rosa, they have to pay that employee that prevailing wage all the way to Lakeport. Then they do their work here and they drive all the way back home. Then they have to pay them that prevailing wage all the way back to their place of business. So typically, if they're going to work an 8-hour day, if they're driving to Santa Rosa, you're looking at least another probably 2.5 hours of overtime at prevailing wage. So pretty soon you start adding all of that up and the costs escalate very drastically, very quickly. And unfortunately, this is a prevailing wage project, and that's the reason you're seeing those kinds of prices.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Doug.
Well, a couple of questions. I'm assuming because of the amount of money that it's going to cost to put these things in, we couldn't hire 2 more employees for a full year to do it, right?
Correct, because if now that we have, I'm going to say that is correct. There could be some argument on that, but if we're to abide by the $45,000, and the way that I understand that is you can't get creative and say, okay, well, just sticking the tree in the ground is one project. Then hooking the water up, that's another project.
That's project splitting, that's
Yeah, and that's
prohibited by the.
Plus, most of the funds are RDA funds. We can't spend those on an employee.
So you wouldn't be able to hire somebody for a year type thing to
No.
plant trees?
It has to go towards the project.
Yes, the RDA monies.
Okay. And did anybody talk to these people about, seems out like you said portal to portal, which becomes really expensive, that we put them up in a hotel and to cut the costs?
They can do that. We don't direct our contractors on how they're gonna operate their business. I mean, that is an option. We did have one of the electricians that was working up here. They chose to pay for the motel room for their employees to stay here versus drive back and forth. That's the contractor's options, and we don't, you know, well, one, I don't think we have the authority to tell them how they're gonna do it, but we just don't go in those, in running their business for them.
Okay.
I'm just glad to hear that constituents actually read that and contacted you, and they were concerned about that, and they want to know how that works. I mean, all of us up here in Lake County are always just blown away by this prevailing wage thing, and it just destroys a lot of projects, and it just takes them right out of possibility of ever happening. But the ones that we do that are RDA and things like that, that we can afford, you know, we take it on the chin, but it's really tough, especially for Doug, I'm sure, to have to put that money out when you could kind of work it out. But and that's a good solution, George. I like the idea that you're thinking out of the box like that. I think that's great, but it just doesn't fit the project splitting and all that stuff.
Well, I wasn't thinking of project splitting. I was thinking,
Well,
you know, if we could hire 2 people for $60,000 a year to plant trees and then do other park work when they're done with the trees, that would benefit both the county and the employees and keep the money in our county. That's what I was thinking.
We have a lot of HR rules too,
Yeah.
so you can't just hire someone and fire them like that.
Makes
It's
too much
really
sense.
difficult to
Yeah, I know, it's too logical, yeah.
very difficult for public employers to hire temporary
Yeah.
employees for that length of time. So,
Well, they have,
Lot of
I mean, they have
complexities.
that, they have that 900-hour rule thing for public employees, but, you know, it was just a question. And then the other thing that I was at the Main Street Association just before coming here, and they are receptive to having some sort of thing to help fix the, you know, 20,000 or whatever. But they don't have any guidance from Kevin, and I told them they need to talk to Kevin to see what he's looking for and exactly what is somebody gonna get. Let's say they pay $500 a tree. What are they gonna get? Are they gonna get a plaque, and is it gonna be attached to the grates or whatever? So I told them to talk to him about that. So they're receptive about that. So.
Yeah, Main Street Association has been a good partner in a lot of projects that we do there. The lamp post is another example of being able to make things happen for the citizens of the community that they have their businesses in.
Anyone from the public? Nothing? Any other discussion? Okay, we're probably ready for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to authorize the city manager to sign the construction contract award for the downtown tree installation project to Neary Landscape Incorporated and a budget amendment in the general fund of $20,000.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have trees coming. When will they be in?
I honestly don't have that answer.
I want it now, I want it now.
I know that
Just
part of the
kidding.
rush of trying to get it now is there is a window for the best survival rate of those trees, and it's within the next couple months.
Okay,
So this is
so
gonna
it will be
break.
soon.
Well,
Better be 100%.
well, according to the contract, they got a 6 months guarantee type thing.
Yeah, on top of that, yeah. But we really, they want to get them in before they butt out.
All right, our last item is the local emergency proclamation. David?
Sure. Again, council has to review its emergency proclamation every 14 days, so that proclamation is up again for your review, and I believe staff put this on the council business to provide some updates on what's going on with the flooding, and so for that I would turn it over to
Doug?
Doug.
Boy, it's my lucky day.
Isn't it,
I can give you some quick updates on particularly what Public Works has going on. We have got the Esplanades all cleaned up now. That's happened over the last 2 days. We still have a little bit of areas of flooding down on the south end by K Street. But it's really shallow, so we just have flood warning signs up. But the streets are open so that people can get in and out of their houses and get parked and all of that good stuff. We do have some road damage in that area, so we're gonna be looking at that, particularly as water level goes down. And we're pursuing on trying to get the park all cleaned up and back in shape. And got staff out doing a lot of patching and other things related to wet weather. And other than that, I really don't. Kelly could give you bring you up to speed on a lot of other things that are going on besides the road stuff.
But before you start, how about the promenade? When will we work on that, or?
That is gonna be a long-term
Yeah, okay.
problem. We have to get some authorization. We have to start the FEMA process. Right now, the way it's looking is the promenade, particularly the seawall from 3rd Street to 1st Street is gone.
Okay.
That's beyond repair, is the way it looks at this point in time, including all, and that will include replacing all the sidewalk along that area.
Okay. On that happy note,
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah, well, I have some happier news.
Okay, good.
So, as you know, there were quite a few families staying at the shelter. And the city made contact with about 28 households. And out of those, 25 of them applied for assistance with CHD, who was brought in. They're a nonprofit that Margaret was working with Senator McGuire, and they managed to get some funding through CHD to provide some emergency relief to some of these folks to assist with rent. And most of them, the Konocti Harbor Resort made some places available for temporary housing until the Willow Point is corrected and they can move back in. So I know that 14 families that were in the shelter are now checked into Konocti, so that's good. And I know there's about six others that are working with CHD on other options. So I don't have the latest head count, Tim might, but yesterday when Margaret went out, there was very few families remaining, and I know that the Red Cross will be pulling out, and the church will be taking over the shelter. So it looks like most everybody's on, if they're not already placed somewhere, they're on their way. Even though some of it's temporary housing, but it's still a good thing because there was a lot of people out there. Up to 100, yeah, at once. So that's good news. And then I know the police worked with the same Willow Point residents and getting them controlled access into their places so they could pull items out that they need, and they're available to do that again. If folks start calling, they can do that. I know that Andrew was working with Lakeport Disposal on a cleanup day, which will take place on Saturday. So that's for flood victims was the impetus, but it's for any City of Lakeport resident. They bring in a utility bill and an ID, and they can dump their household trash. And we have flyers here. It's been posted on Facebook, and so we're trying to get the word out on that. That's this Saturday. It's kind of quick. We haven't had a lot of time to advertise it, but we want to let people know. But the need's there now for flood survivors, or that need that. So,
Lieutenant, do you want to add?
Just that what she was saying, on 2 occasions we set up somewhat of a quasi-repopulation for gathering belongings. It was one of their requests that they had asked more than one time at the shelter. So we, I believe it was 2 Thursdays ago, and then also that Sunday, we set it up, and we had staging areas at all 3 entrances to the Willow Point properties. We had multiple families arrive, and it all went really well. They gathered a lot of belongings. Some of them had storage areas that they could take more than just basic needs out of the house. So, and we permitted them a substantial amount of time to make that happen on both occasions. So it went really well on both ends. They were very appreciative, and we were appreciative of the way that they got everything that they needed, and it went down really well. In addition to that, we continue to patrol that area. because it is continued, closed off. It is still considered an emergency area. So there are still barricades and stuff preventing people from being in there. So we're patrolling that first and foremost from a public safety standpoint, but also to prohibit any would-be criminals from entering the area to do something they shouldn't be doing. So we're being very effective in that and haven't had any reports of anything.
Great. So what's the normal for as far as extending the emergency proclamation? When do you stop it?
You're supposed to stop it when it's not reasonable, essentially, to extend it anymore. And it's probably something that we should talk with Margaret about next time. Because it may have implications with respect to the emergency funding and stuff. So that's something that we should get a handle on before.
Yeah, we're still tidying things up, so.
And certainly, we still have a number of people who are displaced.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Anyone from the public? Okay,
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the continuation of proclamation declaring a local state of emergency due to flooding and extreme weather.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, reports. Okay, anything else?
No, that's it for me.
David?
Nothing to report?
Nick?
Nothing to report?
Lieutenant?
Nothing to report.
Doug, you must have something.
No,
else.
you've heard way too much from me today. You can pass right on by.
Hillary?
Nothing.
Councilmember Spur?
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Parlett? Don't break it. What? Wait.
The only reason I thought it would be a good time to do it because I've been wanting to report on the AVA, and Kevin is not here to back me up, but the abandoned vehicle abatement thing, I wanted to kind of bring people up to speed on that, and I think that all of council members should really know what's going on countywide. We haven't been doing this because there was a question of whether or not that the amount of money that was being charged at the DMV was a fee or a tax, and then finally we got some definition that it was properly being charged, and so we decided to put it back into effect. Well, we were put on probation, they were collecting money and it's sitting at the county, and we weren't being able to get it because we quit doing the abatement, and so now we decided that we want to get off probation. The problem is we have to spend about $280,000 of the surplus that's sitting over at the county, and the way it's divided up, 50% of it is going to be by geography, or by population, and so the county's going to get something like 70-some%, Clear Lake's going to get 20-some%, we're going to get about 7 or 8%, and the money, we're going to try and get the money fronted so that we can go out and start doing the vehicle abatement, which is really important. We have a little problem here, but in Clear Lake, it's just unbelievable. They have a really good committee down there. It's Citizens for Cleaning Up Clear Lake or something like CC4C or something like that. They're really actively, they've got like 150 cars identified. But I thought it would be interesting to just kind of give you a little bit of the background that I ran into, because I thought, how bad could this be? Well, turns out that, and then Hector was here from the CHP explaining the fact that there's a lot of people that when they dump a car, it's not as simple as dumping a car. If you're going to dump it, you might as well fill it full of trash. You might as well have all kinds of toxins and all kinds of stuff in there. And so the people that normally would do tows, that would pick up a car for $50, there's a couple things. They need to get rid of them. And the metal price is so bad now that they're not willing to just take the car for the value of the metal, especially when it's full of trash. And so there's all these things involved, and then they're full of fluids. The fluids have to be removed. The antifreezes has to be removed separately from the gas and the oil and the tranny fluid. So it's a lot more complicated. And so I just wanted to kind of give you a little thumbnail sketch on this thing, but they're charging as much as $6,000 to take an RV off the road. And so when you see these people dropping an RV on the side of the road and it's completely full of trash, and then it's a danger, then Hector was saying there's an opportunity that maybe they wouldn't even be able to tow them because they're unsafe, so they have to have like a police escort or a CHP escort. So those of you that hear about abandoned vehicles and you think it's like, well, we just need to have those things towed. Well, they have up to 150 cars they've already got tagged down in Clear Lake that are ready to be towed, and they only have a certain amount of money. The good thing is once we allocate the money to Clear Lake Lakeport and to the county, it's considered spent. So there's a good chance we're going to get off probation by the end of the fiscal year in June. But the more I heard about it, the more complicated it was. And then the guy that does the scrap metal, Tri-County scrap metal, he doesn't want to just take like 5 cars over at Jones. He wants like 20 or 30 at a time. So you have to get this all together. So it's a very complicated thing, so that when someone asks you why the tree costs $3,700, it's very complicated. Well, the ADA thing is really complicated. In some places, you know, you gotta abate the tires, and if the cars aren't clean, then there's another issue. So I thought you might be interested to know about that. The one thing that was good was Madam Mayor and I went to LTAPC, and I thought it would be really nice for the citizens of Clear Lake to know that Paratransit, the company that is contracted down there, they had a number of people that are applying for the contract, and they were so impressed with Paratransit's operation, and they walked through it, that they didn't even send in an application. They said, you know what, we can't beat this. These guys are doing a great job. So I thought it would be nice to know, everybody in Lake County, that Paratransit is doing a great job. Their shop, everything about it, the way they're managing it, the way they're doing everything, it's just amazing. I thought you would really like to know that. Phil Dow gave a report from APC that now with the Willits project done, that and 2 other major multi-million projects that were like 20, 30, 40 million dollar projects are all finished now, and that the next big project on the horizon is the 29 expansion from Lower Lake to Lakeport. So that's going to be the big money that will be spent by Caltrans. There's some STIP funding and some other acronyms that, you know, that have this different money. Caltrans is responsible for getting the gap funding on that, but that would be the next major project in Lake County, in all of California. So that's going to be a big thing for Lake County, so it's kind of exciting to see that thing going through. So anyway, sorry to drag it out, but I figured we'd still be out here before 7. So I apologize, Madam Mayor and council members.
No, that's good information. And the widening was what, 15 million under budget?
Over, you mean?
Over, yeah, duh. But hopefully they'll figure that out. Councilmember Barnes,
No report?
how can you follow that? Councilmember Turner?
Just that, not this weekend, but next week, Thursday and Friday, I'll be in Ontario attending the Legislative Policy Committee meetings for community services as well as environmental quality.
Have a good
Okay.
time.
I don't have anything further. Thanks for coming tonight. Next time, bring a friend. Meeting adjourned.
So did you guys?